Okay, let's jump right into this incredibly captivating explainer of a classic Islamic folktale. We're looking at a story set in ancient Baghdad that strips away all the modern noise and forces us to confront the ultimate test of human integrity. It's a raw and honestly pretty uncomfortable look at that intense conflict between what we physically need right now and what our deep spiritual convictions demand of us.
So I want you to literally put yourself in the shoes of our main subject today, a young man named Ahmad. Imagine you are pushed to the absolute edge. Your family has absolutely no food. Your mother is sick. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a life-changing amount of money just drops right into your lap. No cameras, no witnesses, nobody would ever know. What do you actually do?
Let's hit chapter 1, the test of temptation, and see exactly how these incredibly high stakes are set up. To truly get the weight of Ahmad's decision, we have to look at his reality. The source describes Ahmad as a guy who's out there working in the blistering sun and pouring rain, and he is still barely scraping by. He lives in this broken down hut on the edge of the city, and a lot of times, if he and his elderly, sick mother manage to eat one meal, they literally have to starve for the next. But what's really key here is that despite this grinding poverty, the text makes a point to note that Ahmad never stops thanking Allah for the little he does have. But then, everything flips. One afternoon, he's resting by his field, totally exhausted, and he spots it. A gorgeous, expensive blue silk pouch tied up with gold thread. And inside, exactly 10 gleaming gold coins. Now, for a guy who can barely afford a handful of rice, 10 gold coins isn't just money, it's a completely world-altering fortune. So here we have it, the ultimate tug of war. Ahmad is instantly thrown into this agonizing internal struggle between pure survival and his faith. On one hand, you've got immediate relief, right? Medicine for his mom, good food, a safe house. But on the other hand, the spiritual cost is massive. Keeping money that isn't his means tainting his soul and completely failing the ultimate test of his character. And right in the middle of this internal chaos, he remembers this piece of advice from his mother. It acts as his anchor. It grounds him, pushing him to reject the easy out and take on the incredibly difficult responsibility of finding the true owner. He knows whoever lost it is probably terrified, and taking it would make that wealth haram, forbidden for him and his mother to ever use.
Which brings us to chapter 2, the struggle for honesty. Because, deciding to do the right thing was just the starting line. Actually executing that decision in a swelling place like Baghdad, it pushes him to his absolute physical limit. Look at the sheer pacing of his patience here. He doesn't just ask around for an hour. He spends all of day 1 shouting in the chaotic main market. Days 2 and 3, checking the mosques and river docks. By day 4, he is completely out of food. He's walking the streets, literally starving, while carrying a fortune in his pocket that he absolutely refuses to spend. And to make it even harder, it's not just his own hunger testing him, it's the sheer greed of everyone else. When he publicly announces he found a pouch, people actually laugh at him. They call him crazy. And then the scammers show up, claiming it's theirs. But Ahmad is sharp. He tests them. And when they guess it's red silk or full of silver coins, their blatant dishonesty just ends up highlighting his own steadfast integrity.
But by day 4, things are dire. There is zero food left. His mother is begging him to just go back to work so they don't starve to death. Ahmad basically hits rock bottom. He collapses on his prayer mat and cries out with this deeply desperate prayer. He's pleading for a way to just keep his honesty intact without having to watch his mother waste away. And that leads right into chapter 3, returning the trust. Because that prayer gives him one last idea. He figures, hey, anyone carrying that kind of cash has to be a traveling merchant staying at a major inn, right? And his logic totally pays off. He goes to the oldest, busiest inn in the city, and a distinguished older merchant named Sheikh Ibrahim approaches him. When Ahmad asks, the sheikh perfectly describes the blue silk pouch, the gold thread, and the 10 gold coins. Finally, Ahmad feels this massive wave of relief. He hands it over, keeping his soul clean and fulfilling that heavy responsibility. Naturally, the sheikh is overjoyed. He immediately turns around and offers Ahmad 5 of those gold coins as a reward. I mean, think about that for a second. 5 gold coins, that's half the fortune, offered completely freely and legally by the owner. For a man who hasn't eaten in days, you'd think this is the ultimate validation. But here is where Ahmad's unwavering faith just blows you away. He refuses it. He turns down a massive, life-changing reward. He tells the sheikh his conscience simply won't let him take payment for just doing his basic duty and returning a trust. He insists his reward will only come from his creator. And honestly, the merchant is just left standing there, completely speechless at this guy's character. Which transitions us beautifully into Chapter 4, The Ultimate Reward. This right here is the major turning point of the whole explainer. Sheikh Ibrahim looks at Ahmad and realizes he's not just looking at some poor farmer. He's looking at a man with a genuinely rare soul. Look at how these blessings just cascade. First, the sheikh hires him to supervise his massive orchards. Then, he moves Ahmad and his mom out of that broken hut into a beautiful new house. And he brings in the absolute best doctors in the city to finally treat Ahmad's mother. But the biggest shift happens a few months later. The merchant realizes that Ahmad's sheer honesty and fear of Allah are way more valuable than any amount of money. So he makes Ahmad the perfect match for his only daughter. Talk about a transformation, from literally starving on the streets to becoming the son-in-law and named successor of one of the wealthiest merchants in all of Baghdad. Let's pull all this together in Chapter 5, Lessons in Faith, because there is a much deeper spiritual lesson happening here under the surface. It really all hinges on this one core concept, Rizq. This story is basically a masterclass in divine provision. It proves that Ahmad's daily sustenance was never actually tied to his desperate physical situation, but to his spiritual reliance. Those 10 coins, they were never his Rizq, they were just the test. His true Rizq was the entire orchard, the new life, the family, all waiting for him on the other side, but only unlocked once he proved his patience. And the explainer wraps up with this incredibly gorgeous full circle moment. Ahmad goes back to the exact same tree where he first found that pouch. But this time, he's not a starving, desperate laborer. He's there simply to bow down and show immense gratitude, fully understanding the profound wisdom behind the grueling struggle he went through. Ahmad chose the agonizingly difficult road of integrity over the quick comfort of compromised morals, and it literally changed his destiny forever. So it really leaves us with this final striking thought to chew on. If you were thrown into that ultimate crucible of temptation, would your faith actually hold strong enough to see the ultimate reward?